Have you ever heard of vampire tomatoes? Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I swear they're real, and they're taking over our garden. It all started a few weeks ago, when we noticed some strange things happening with our tomato plants. At first, we thought it was just a bad batch of seeds, or maybe some weird weather patterns. But as the days went by, it became clear that something much more sinister was at play. The first sign was the way the tomatoes were growing. They were bigger and redder than any tomatoes I had ever seen, and they seemed to be multiplying at an alarming rate. It was like they had a life of their own. And that's when we started to notice the bite marks. At first, we thought it was just some kind of pest infestation. But the more we looked closely, the more we realized that the bite marks were too clean and precise to be caused by any normal garden pest. It was like something was deliberately feeding on our tomatoes. And that's when we started to suspect the worst. We did some research and discovered that there were legends of vampire tomatoes that had been passed down through generations. According to the stories, these tomatoes were cursed by a powerful vampire centuries ago, and now they roamed the earth, feeding on the blood of unsuspecting gardeners. It sounded ridiculous, but the evidence was right there in front of us. As the days went by, the situation only got worse. The tomatoes seemed to be growing faster and faster, and the bite marks were becoming more frequent. We tried everything to stop them: pesticides, traps, even prayers. But nothing seemed to work. It was like the vampire tomatoes were invincible. And then one night, as I was checking on the garden, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. A group of tomatoes had formed a circle in the center of the garden, and they were pulsating with a strange red light. I watched in horror as they began to levitate off the ground, their vines twisting and writhing in the air. And then, with a deafening crack, they burst open, revealing a dark, viscous liquid inside. I knew then that we were in serious trouble. The vampire tomatoes had reached their final form, and they were ready to take over our garden once and for all. I tried to run, but it was too late. The tomatoes descended upon me, their vines wrapping around my limbs and pulling me towards their gaping maws. I could feel their sharp teeth sinking into my flesh, draining me of my life force. As I lay there, helpless and defeated, I realized that we had underestimated the power of the vampire tomatoes. They were not just a simple garden pest, they were a force to be reckoned with. And now, as I feel my strength fading away, I can only hope that someone will come along and put an end to this nightmare before it's too late. So if you ever come across a strange tomato in your garden, beware. It may not be as innocent as it seems. It may be a vampire tomato, hungry for blood and ready to strike. And if you're not careful, you may just end up like me, a victim of the Garden of Horrors.